What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We got a glimpse of what Cipher is going to end up looking like by the time she releases. They cooked your girl Cipher. They just cooked her. Version 4 had her pretty much being the main DPS, the main character in the Acheron team, but now version 5 pretty much brought her back to reality. And we're going to take a look at how that affects Acheron teams. I am not going to cover how she affects other teams. That's going to be in a later video. This video is going to be specifically for Acheron because there's going to be a lot of debate on whether she's going to be replacing Jiaoqiu or not. So we're going to have that discussion in today's video. So if you enjoy this type of content, let me know by liking the video, leaving a comment in the comment section below, and consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. This is a top-up site that I personally have been using for years now, in which you can purchase Oneric Shards at almost at a 23% discount. And the process is very, very simple. All you have to do is select the pack you want to purchase, enter your game UID and server, make sure this information is correct. And once you confirm your purchase, you should receive your JADES directly in your game in about 1 minute or so. All right. What? It's really that simple, fast and easy. And since HSR is resetting the top-up bonuses for the first time top-up in the anniversary, you actually get twice the reward for the same price and same amount of discount. So click the link in the description, save a lot of money, get twice the amount of Stellar Jades for the HSR anniversary using lootbar.gg. All right, the first thing we're going to take a look at is the changes. So her multiplier for the skill is at 200% to main target, 100% to adjacent. Her ultimate goes to 120, went all the way down to 120 RIP. Her true damage recording stayed the same throughout version 4, so that didn't change. What did change was her follow-up multiplier, which was, I think, around 400%. Now it's all the way down to 150, which is tragic. So now her follow-up is not going to do that much damage, so that's kind of unfortunate. However, she did keep the follow-up can be triggered 1 time each turn instead of 1 time each ultimate, which was her original version 1 kit. So now she triggers more ultimates. I mean, she triggers more follow-up attacks, but they do a lot less damage, which is a little bit tragic. So for teams like Fei Zhao, which we're going to cover in a later video, she might work a little bit better there, and it will be a for sure upgrade in those type of teams. Aside from that, her debuffing capabilities remain the same. She still does the 40% vulnerability on enemies when they come into battle. So the enemies have to show up in the battle, or they need to be spawned or summoned for them to be hit with this, and for it to count for Acheron's stack generation. Aside from that, every time she takes a turn, she is going to have a 120% base chance to apply weaken, which also is a debuff. And for this, you need about 43% effect hit rate or something like that. Really, really low amount of effect hit rate to make this work. So nothing crazy. So every time she is taking a turn, she is generating stacks for Acheron, and you want to run her fast anyway. So her stack generation is actually very, very good, although it's not better than Jiaoqiu unless you can run Cipher with a preservation character that can run the trend light cone. So that's going to be another video that we're going to go over whenever she does drop. I am going to release another Acheron team video because her Acheron just keeps evolving. Aside from that, nothing really affects low spenders and free-to-play players. She did get a change from her E1 or in her E6. Now the extra recording only is for her E6, but that doesn't really affect low spenders or free-to-play players. This is mostly for E6 players or my whales. Now, taking a look at my calculator, again, shout out to LP for making this calculator for me. We are going to take a look at a variety of different teams like Jiaoqiu, Pela, and Gallagher at E0, S1, Acheron. We're also going to take a look at E0 with Jiaoqiu, Cipher, and Gallagher. I'm sorry I don't have the picture for Cipher, but this is Cipher, trust and believe. And then we're also going to be taking a look at E0 with Pela and Cipher, E2 with Jiaoqiu and Sunday, E2 with Cipher and Sunday, and then I'm going to go over the results of all the numbers and break them down. So the first team, like I said, Jiaoqiu, Pela, and Gallagher. Obviously, Jiaoqiu is bringing the 35% vulnerability on everything and then 50% on ultimate damage, which is what Acheron's main damage source is going to be. Obviously, Pela, the cracked out 4-star unit that she is, she gets 45% defense ignore and 16% from the resolution chance process sweat light cone. Honestly, you can flip-flop these two. It doesn't really matter who has what, but I put this on Jiaoqiu for the simple reason that once you have your ultimate on Pela, you're always going to be hitting something that has defense ignore. But normally you would swap, you would have before tutorial mission starts on Pela instead of Jiaoqiu, because you do need the defense reduction to run before tutorial mission starts, but that's besides the point. Now, we are only going to take a look at the ultimate with the 2 nihilities on the team. We're not going to do any simulation or anything like that, because we're mainly, Acheron's main source of damage is going to come from her ultimate. I understand that when Cipher is involved, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, when Cipher is involved, Acheron's team turns kind of into a dual DPS type of team. Maybe not now with her multipliers kind of nerfed, but even though her multipliers are nerfed, her ultimate makes it to where you can kind of justify it being a dual DPS team, because her ultimate does do a little bit, not a little bit, it does a lot of damage, depending on how much damage your Acheron is doing. But whatever the case, the ultimate with 2 nihility characters, there's 171 single target, 138 to blast, and then blast and AoE, and then the total amount of damage is going to be around 723,000 to 5 targets using this team. So this is kind of like our baseline. This is where we're going to be basing most of our damage off of, because this is pretty much where most people are if they have Jiaoqiu and Acheron. Now, we replace Pela with Cipher. We are going to add, we're going to keep the 60% defense ignore here, and then this in turn will make us be able to trigger the before tutorial mission starts from Jiaoqiu, and then it's also going to give us a 40% vulnerability. This 40% vulnerability here is the Cipher 40% vulnerability, and it's also added up to here. So we have 35% vulnerability from Jiaoqiu's regular vulnerability, plus 40 from Cipher, and then we have an extra 15 here from Jiaoqiu's ultimate vulnerability, and that is going to be 159 single target, 128 blast, and then the total amount of damage is going to be 159 for single target and 675,000 for AoE or in total. Now, you may notice that it is less than what Pela, than the damage with Pela, right? And this is a very easy explanation. I did talk about this in my defense versus vulnerability video, so I'm going to leave that video linked somewhere around here. Please check that video so you understand how these multipliers interact with each other and how you can maximize your damage. But essentially, the Pela does a little bit more damage because you're taking 2 multipliers and propping them up together instead of just hyper investing in just 1 multiplier. That's the easiest way that I can explain it. All right, moving on, we're going to take a look at Cipher and Pela team. Obviously, we have 40% defense ignore from Pela. Tutorial mission starts on Pela because obviously she does trigger her own defense ignore, and then resolution chance pulse sweat on Cipher because you should have defense ignore already, and that'll help your defense ignore more. So obviously you have the 40% vulnerability from Cipher, which is over here, and then you have 40% defense ignore from Pela. Again, you're horizontally investing in your debuffs, and then an extra 16% defense ignore. So 56% defense ignore, 40% vulnerability. So this one should be somewhere in the middle of the previous 2 teams, and you have 153 single target, 123 AoE, and then you have 153 and 650,000 for AoE. So if you just look at the numbers, it doesn't seem like Acheron's E0 team actually changes, but remember that Cipher does damage herself. Cipher actually does follow-up attack damage, even though it's not a lot. Her skill does damage, her follow-up does damage, her stacking is more than she stacks debuffs way better than Pela, so the team performance is going to be better than just running Pela. Aside from that, her ultimate deals an insane amount of damage and also gives Acheron another stack. So in this team, even though Acheron's damage is less, right? If you compare the 2 teams, Jiaoqiu and Cipher, and then Jiaoqiu and Pela, you're missing about 50k damage. You're going to be doing an extra 1 million to 2 million damage just by having Cipher on the team, because she does have her ultimate. So you have to keep that in mind. These numbers do not have the whole picture on them. This is just Acheron numbers. When we have a full team breakdown, which is going to come later, closer to Cipher release, I'm going to have a full team breakdown and calculations for the whole team. You're going to see that this team in particular for E0 Acheron, is going to perform extremely well. I haven't even tried it, and I already know it's going to perform well. Now for my E2 Havers, we are going to run this as base. We have Jiaoqiu, Resolution Shot, Pulse Sweat with Sunday and Passive Feature. I understand that a lot of people like to calculate with Robin, but Sunday does give more individual buffs. That's why I like to use Sunday instead of Robin when I do these calculations. Now we already know what Jiaoqiu is doing, but for this particular scenario, Sunday is giving us 72% crit damage, 30% damage bonus, 20% crit rate, and 32% damage from Passive Feature. Obviously, Gallagher's is there as a sustain. If you want to run sustainless, then, knock yourself out, go right ahead. But for E2 Acheron, our single target damage is going to be 237,000 damage. Blast is 191. And then for the total amount of damage, you're going to be hitting for about 1 million damage here. This is the regular Acheron team that people are probably running right now. I mean, some people may give or take swap Sunday for Robin. Some people may swap Sunday for Tribi or Ruan Mei, whichever. And then also you can replace Gallagher for a no sustain run with another Harmony character that you choose. Moving into the Cipher team. This is Cipher with Resolution, Shine, Process, Sweat. Same thing. We have the 16% defense ignore from Resolution and the 40% vulnerability here. Single target damage 222,000, and then AoE or Blast 178 or 79. And then the total damage is going to be 938,000, almost a million. We're like 600, we're like 62,000 damage short of the million damage, which is going to be the difference right here. Again, this type of team, it's probably going to be better off ran with a AoE buffer, kind of like Tribi or Ruan Mei or Robin. Mainly Robin, because Robin's going to give everybody more turns, and that's what you want. I think the order in which you want to run these is going to be Robin first, then Tribi, then Ruan Mei. Either of those can work. Sunday is very specialized here, but I think Robin, Sunday, and Ruan Mei would probably do a better job in this type of team, because Cipher does damage herself, and then the more damage the entire team does, the better Cipher is going to perform with her ultimate. So just keep that in mind. This does not paint the entire picture. I'm not saying that this team is going to perform better than this team. I'm going to say that if you are going to run a Cipher team, you're going to be better off swapping Sunday off for an AoE buffer, so you can actually buff Cipher and Acheron, and then get a pretty much double dip on that true damage recording that Cipher does. But this video is about numbers and how the debuffs and buffs affect certain things, and this is pretty much what it is. For an E0 S1 Acheron team, Jiaoqiu and Pela is the baseline. The Jiaoqiu and Cipher is about 7% less damage than Pela, and than just having Pela, and this is pretty much because we are investing horizontally into our debuffs instead of just overstacking vulnerability. We're stacking defense and vulnerability instead of just one, which makes a lot of sense. And even then, it's only 7%, so it's actually not bad. And also, aside from this, we have to take into consideration that this is only Acheron's damage. We're not taking into consideration Cipher's damage. So if we actually factor in Cipher's damage, the overall team performance for this team is going to be a lot better than just having Pela by itself, because this turns the Acheron team from a hyper carry Acheron team to a main DPS, sub DPS type of team, and then you make Jiaoqiu the AoE buffer in a sense. So the addition of Cipher kind of changes Acheron team comps if you are going to be running her, and then you can make it to where you can save your Cipher ult just to nuke the boss right at the end with if you need the extra help, because Acheron does enough damage on her own. The only thing is that Jiaoqiu's stack generation, if you don't have a reliable sustain that can run trend, is going to that's going to be the deciding factor there. So if in this team you can run Aventurine with trend or March 7th with trend, then you can actually make this work pretty much similarly to what this team would do, but a little bit better, because Cipher does damage herself. If you can't do that, then Jiaoqiu with whoever is going to be better, because Jiaoqiu's stack generation and damage amp is going to be just insane. Now for the E2 teams, you have E2 S1 Jiaoqiu with Sunday. Obviously that's our baseline with 1 million damage. And then E2 S1 Cipher with Sunday, about 7% less damage for Acheron itself. Now, if you are running this team, remember, again, I'm going to keep stressing it because I think these numbers are going to throw a lot of people off. Cipher does damage herself. This team right here is a Acheron hypercarry team. This team right here is not an Acheron hypercarry team. This team is a Acheron main DPS, Cipher a sub DPS, not a dual DPS, kind of like Almighty and Casters are, that they both deal millions of damage. You have Acheron dealing the millions of damage, and then you have Cipher repeating the millions of damage that Acheron is dealing. So it's like a main DPS, sub DPS type of deal. So in my opinion, this team is going to perform a little better than the Jiaoqiu team in a lot of scenarios, and then the Jiaoqiu team is going to perform better than the Cipher team in a lot of scenarios. Mainly Pure Fiction is going to be where this team is going to perform better than any Cipher team, in my opinion, but the Cipher team is also going to perform very well. So either or, if you have Jiaoqiu or if you don't have Jiaoqiu, if you have Cipher, I think it's close enough to where it's a good option. It's a great option, actually. And a lot of people are saying that it's going to be either or, that you have to use Jiaoqiu or Cipher or Jiaoqiu. Jiaoqiu is power crept or Cipher is shit or whatever the case may be. No, like, we have to see it in the sense that you can run both. You can run either. So now Acheron is not pigeonholed to just Jiaoqiu now. Acheron has options. Acheron can run Cipher, Acheron can run Jiaoqiu. Acheron can run Jiaoqiu Pela, Acheron can run Cipher Pela. Does that make sense? So I don't see this as a competition. I see it as an upgrade overall to an Acheron team composition that already has been getting a lot of buffs. For every harmony that comes out, Acheron gets a buff indirect. So any slight buff in the harmony department is going to inadvertently buff Acheron, and she's already really good. So if you pull Jiaoqiu on the rerun, don't feel bad about it. Jiaoqiu is still insanely strong. I would say that he's still the best in slot support for Acheron if you're going to run Acheron in a hyper carry team. If you have a hyper carry Acheron, then yeah, just run Jiaoqiu. He's the best one by far. He's the best stack generator. He's the best in general. Now, if you are interested in a dual DPS Acheron team, then Cipher is also going to be a very good option. And if you have both, then you have options. Then in some cases, you're going to run Cipher, some cases you're going to run Jiaoqiu. So hopefully this makes it a little bit easier to understand. I'm going to leave the link to the other video, the defense versus vulnerability video, in the description below. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Until next time, guys. See ya.